What was he playing? What was the music that he played from? Do you remember?
It was Van Halen.
Van Halen, that's what it was.
Well, someone saw it last night.
Yeah, exactly.
Nerd On.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Nerd On, the podcast you didn't need, but you deserve, and where all levels of nerd are welcome. I'm Josh. Corey.
Ali.
And I'm Tom.
Wow, that was super confusing. I don't know how that happened.
I don't know.
And we have a very special guest. Very excited. Michael.
Stoked.
Yeah, super stoked. Michael Nathanson, known for Sam Stein from Marvel's The Punisher on Netflix. He was Dr. Levi Zinberg in the Knick, which I loved. And you were also in The Wolf of Wall Street and many, many other things. What's going on, Michael? Welcome.
How's it going, gentlemen? Thank you for having me. It's nice to be here. Not here where you are. You're in California, not in New York, but that's fine.
Thank
but
you,
it's
Al Gore.
Yeah, it's nice to be talking with you.
Awesome. Is there anything I missed? Well, you were telling us you're a father as well. That takes up a lot of your time. And so you do that. And you're also a filmmaker from what I was seeing from your bio, like as in a director.
Not a director,
Okay.
although that's sort of inevitable.
Yeah.
You got it.
I
At some point.
do all the I do a lot of producing and writing and
There we go.
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. But I've never directed a project. But it's something I've directed some theater in my past, but I've never directed on film. It's something I find that I'm more of a story guy,
Yeah.
and I like sort of more of a general sort of creative control, and like to have my hands in a lot of different places on set. And I don't really. That's almost like too specific of a job.
Sure, yeah. Absolutely.
It's like, I got to go do this, want to do that. And I generally like to act in the things that I do. And I'm not quite ready to be the guy who directs himself and stuff, although I think I probably could do it. But,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So it's an eventuality.
it is.
What what got you into acting in the first place?
I think I was dropped on my head as a child.
Yeah,
probably.
sounds about right. Yeah.
What an idiot for wanting to do this. No, it's funny. When I was a kid, I was in like the 6th grade musical, and like I got on stage. I was always sort of like a class clown type kid, and always sort of vying for people's attention. And I was like, oh, I can make people laugh, and I can perform, and whatever, and people will notice me. And then I got into a play in 6th grade, and I was like, whoa, what is this? And,
What is this rush?
The bug, as they call
Yeah.
it.
What have I
it
done?
really was insane. And what's funny is like all the other parents of all the other kids were like, I think your son is an actor. He might be.
We put our kids in
it was
this
obvious.
to eat up their time, but your kid gets it.
Yeah, kind of. It's weird. And then, so then I just kept sort of acting. And then I did it professionally for like a couple of years when I was, I don't know, maybe like 11, 12, around that time. And did like a couple little bitty things here and there. And then, but it really like bummed me out. I wanted to be a kid and not really go into the sort of acting biz. And I just told my parents, it's like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go, play baseball and play music, and just be a normal kid. And I did that. And then I did lots of theater in high school, and I was the editor of the film magazine in high school. And I
Dope.
Nice.
smoked a lot of weed and played guitar, was in a couple of bands, and played baseball until I wasn't good enough to play varsity. And I was like, fuck this, I'm out. And I think that's when I started smoking weed.
So
Sorry.
kind of like
And
the
then,
average high school life.
Order of events.
Yeah. and then I actually went to college to be I didn't know what I wanted to be. I was like, maybe I'll be an English major. Maybe I'll be a writer. I really wanted to be a writer. And then I went to Northwestern in Chicago, and knowing that they had a good theater program, or at least there was the opportunity to do theater there.
Yeah.
And I went as an English major, then switched to film, and was like, I'm going to be a screenwriter. That's what I'm going to do.
Nice.
And got really bored with a lot of the technical stuff in film school, and auditioned for a play that was going on, got the lead, and people were like, why is this random freshman who's not even a theater major getting a lead in a play? And
He's
that was
dope
really
as shit, guys. That's what happened.
That's right. And so then that's what happened. That's what started it. I got that play, did that play, and was like, oh, this is what I need to do. Switched to theater major, and then the rest is history. And then I just, did it through college, and then left college, and then became a professional actor when they let me, when they pay me for it.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like pretty, like you said, you like to do a lot of different things. It sounds like your upbringing was like kind of a lot in line with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. My mom's an artist. My dad's a lawyer. And I come from kind of a mixed martial arts background in that way. But I think my dad's kind of he was a frustrated athlete. Like he did like crazy shit all over the world. He won a gold medal in the Maccabi Games in Israel for Team USA and in the decathlon. And he used to run track at Madison Square Garden. He was like a big athlete, and but he didn't have like a ton of encouragement from his folks. And my mom is like a really brilliant painter and artist, but she had kids and ended up kind of going the family route. And I think they both were sort of frustrated that they didn't get to really pursue the things they loved. And I think that's for me. They were always very intent on having me follow any passion that I had for anything. So like wanted to play guitar. They got me a guitar. I was really into drawing and painting and stuff, and they got me what I needed to do that. And I did it all, pretty decently, like in terms of like I went at all these different things, and then, sort of settled on acting as like my main gig. But as I've gotten older, I think I've sort of gone back to the way I was earlier, which was sort of like, well, I don't want to just be an actor. I want to be a writer. I want to be a producer. I want to create things. I want to, do all sorts.
Not limit yourself.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at.
That's awesome. I mean, it's it kind of looks like, looking at your film career, you've had a lot of different big breaks. Like, of course I'm focusing on like the big ones, like The Wolf on Wall Street, The Knick, and The Punisher. Like, what was that like when you kind of found out that kind of news, when it's like, oh, I'm not just doing these small things, now I'm doing bigger things?
Yeah, it's such a funny thing. Like people talk about like, oh, you're in The Wolf of Wall Street. I'm like, yeah, I'm in it for like 5 minutes. It's such a credit, because like getting to work with those people and having a credit like that. But, I was a working actor for a really long time. Like I did theater I was a theater actor. Like I went to Northwestern. I don't know if anyone knows about Northwestern theater program in Chicago. Yeah, it's really top notch. And like, they really train you to be like a theater actor. They don't talk about film. They don't talk about TV. Yeah. It's like, you're a theater actor and you're going to like suffer for your art for the rest of your life. And I really bought into that, and it was fine for a while. Like I really enjoyed, I came back to New York pretty quickly, and then just started like right out of the gate, like doing a lot of theater, and I just got burned out. I got really burned out doing it, and started to feel like, oh, I really need to give like film and TV a real shot. And then started doing a lot of commercials and indie films, and again was like making good money doing all those things. But I was, still waiting for that time where I was just like, I every couple of years I would break through like another level of something, or another level of something in the business. And the one like huge break I got really was, and when I say huge break, again, like you can be a working actor and make money.
Oh
and,
yeah,
like,
of course.
Do it, be passionate about it, and no one knows who you are. Yeah. And that's totally fine. But it's cool to like now be in a place where it's like people know who I am, and I get stopped in the street, and it's afforded me some incredible opportunities, and I'm very excited about being where I am. But I never felt like I was like unsuccessful. Do you know what I mean? Like,
right.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I always feel like I want to make sure that people understand what that means, that it's not about like, well, I got a break, so then I was able to be an actor, or I got this, got to work with this person, and then I got to do this thing. And it's like, all roads kind of lead to where you're supposed to be. And I think when you're in where if you really focus on like what you're doing, what you're passionate about, where you are in that moment, that's as good as it's ever going to get.
So you see it as like more of a maybe like a change of pace, kind of like from what you were doing with theater to some of the like working on Punisher, for instance.
Yeah, I mean, like it's so different. I definitely feel like much more of a film and TV actor now than even though I'm a trained. Well, not that trained. I'm a trained theater actor. I did tons of Shakespeare, and like I did Hamlet. Oh, yeah. Like I've done a lot of really intense theater, a lot of intense plays and musicals too. I toured around the country with The Lion King.
Oh damn!
Oh, nice.
I did. I've done a lot of crazy shit, but
that's cool.
But I feel like I've done film and TV for so long now and gotten to do such cool projects, and I really feel I've just fallen in love with the craft of filmmaking and acting for film, like what that is and what that means. But
right.
I was just gonna say, like the one thing that really kind of changed a lot of the dynamic for me was when I was the lead in a short film that got nominated for an Academy Award, and got to go to the Oscars with the filmmakers. And before that was traveling around the country with the film to like every big film festival. And it just totally put me on the map as someone, you know, sort of viable and interesting. And I was really like the face of the movie. And
wow, that must have been wild.
Not to preview what we're going to talk. We are still talking about what you guys said we were going to talk about.
Yes, we are.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to talk about Back to the Future. And I'm going to tell you something why Back to the Future means so much to me. Not just the fact that it's one of my favorite movies, and as a kid I was obsessed with it. The sort of, this is a great segue, by the way, but we could totally talk about more about me if you want. The short that I did was called Time Freak, and it's a time travel movie.
Nice.
And it's sort of like Groundhog Day meets Back to the Future.
Okay.
And it's about a neurotic guy who is so obsessed with trying to get things right that he invents this incredible ability to time travel, but he keeps just repeating the same day over and over again to fix the minutia of that one day. Like he's got these big plans of going to ancient Rome and going, meeting all these historical figures and doing all this amazing stuff, but he keeps fighting with the dry cleaner because his clothes aren't ready, and he like keeps being an asshole, so he wants to go back and fix that. Like there's this girl that he has a crush on, and he totally makes a fool out of himself, so he's trying desperately to like figure that out and make that better, and so on and so forth. And so anyway, that experience was just insane, and like being at the Oscars and getting to like experience all of that was where like everything sort of that's when like the wizard appeared, and I was like, oh, it's just a dude behind a curtain, but also like now behind the curtain. That's when the curtain opened, kind of started peeking through.
That's awesome.
For sure. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
I mean, that's
a perfect segue as any, I think, into Back to the Future as well.
You guys provided that. I didn't.
We planned it perfectly.
Yes. Like you said, all the roads will just end up in the same place.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So,
but where we're going, we don't need roads.
Yes.
Well done, sir.
Dang, bazinga. Anyway,
that any better.
If everybody at home is not guessed, we are talking about Back to the Future.
Yes.
Very excited because, as Michael said, I am in the same camp. Back to the Future is probably one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah.
Yep.
I would say it's one of those films that cannot be remade.
No,
I would hope not.
Well, actually, Zemeckis has the rights on it, and he said it cannot be remade, rebooted until I'm dead.
Yeah.
Oh, God, hopefully afterwards. Man.
Also, it's very much a product of its time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, very
It
much
is the 80s.
explicitly.
Yeah.
The concept of the future in the eyes of the 80s is
Right.
That's
It's
the magic.
golden.
Yeah. It's the magic time.
Yes.
So 1985, we got Robert Zemeckis coming off of Romancing the Stone, which is another one of my favorites.
Another
We'll
good
do another
one.
episode after that.
So
This movie has a lot of things going right for it.
Yep.
It had Michael J. Fox at the height of his career during Family Ties.
Christopher Lloyd.
Who's one of the most brilliant character actors I've probably ever seen. You have an amazing soundtrack.
Yeah, Crispin Glover.
Yeah.
Crispin Glover. In all his glory.
You got who did the score? Score for this? This is the great
Goldsmith.
Goldsmith. Yeah, I think so.
Like pretty much to me, I think one of the most iconic like film. Like this is the adventure film that you're gonna love. It makes you excited to watch it.
Oh yeah.
Alan Silvestri.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Oh man.
1985 is the year I was born. So I mean, you know, it's a good year.
So we got one good, one bad. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's focus on the first one for just a moment here.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to start us off with like kind of their first experience of the film.
Yeah, I thought I wanted to put it in Michael's camp. Do you remember the first time you saw it?
Oh my God. When was the first time I saw it? I think I saw it in the movie theaters. And I was young. I was very young, but I think I did see it in the movie theaters. I honestly don't remember. I did mention that I smoked a lot of pot. Not currently in my life.
Yeah, sure. No,
I don't have time for that. Yeah, right. Yeah, not anymore. No, I'm trying to think of like the first time
or like one of the first times you remember just seeing it. What was the experience watching a film like this, and what chord did it strike with you?
I do remember seeing it for the first time and or that early time with it and just being so blown away by like how inventive and this, I think even as a young kid, I understood like how good the structure of that film was. It's kind of a perfectly structured story, like a perfect screenplay. Like it's just it's like 100% the same way, there's certain movies that are just like for me, like Tootsie is like the perfect comedy. Like there's certain movies or screenplays or certain things that are just like the blueprint for how these things should be done. Not that they're like by the numbers, and I think I think always being a fan of Star Wars and always being a fan of Raiders of the Lost Ark and all that kind of stuff. Like I love the great adventure and action movie. It has a great story, but like this was like about people I recognize and like, like the world like that we live in.
It's the high schooler. It's the girl
it was like,
next door thing.
Right.
Yeah. I think it was the first time I ever like saw like a fun science fiction movie that took place in a world that I recognized as opposed
that you
to like
lived in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it was groundbreaking in that way, in a lot of ways. So
I like that you mentioned like Raiders of the Lost Ark and Star Wars because it does have the vibe of both those movies kind of melded into one.
Yeah,
that was the time that all these guys are coming out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, even USC has said that it's the best screenplay.
It's the perfect screenplay. They teach it as the perfect screenplay. It is. I was watching it again last night just because I like to be prepared, and I was watching it and I was like, holy shit, this movie is so good from back to front. And
it's insanely quotable.
From Back to the Future.
Hey-o.
I mean, even from the beginning, it like all the shots with the opening credits, it explains who the characters are.
Yeah.
Immediately.
And with the sound, with the music, Power of Love, Huey Lewis and the News, I mean, like it has such a great vibe and feel like it doesn't feel like the film is teaching you something, but it is. And it makes it enjoyable to learn how good filmmaking is done.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
for sure.
Cora, you want to talk about your first time, baby?
Oh man, it's a movie I watched with my dad for the first time. It was one of his favorites. Shout out to my dad.
What's your dad?
And I just remember at the time, I didn't know who. This was my first experience with Michael J. Fox.
Oh wow.
Was watching Back to the Future. I was pretty young. And to me, Michael J. Fox, and like I'm a huge fan. I've read his book and everything like that. And he's just one of those people who is likable just by being who he is. So no matter how the character is kind of written, you are kind of always rooting for him.
Yeah.
I mean, I went on to watch like Spin City with my dad and stuff like that. Which was
that was the show.
My other experience with Michael J. Fox. But his dynamic, I mean, the cool dynamic, if you think too hard about it, is kind of strange, but it's a teenager with like this older, like mad scientist kind of, it's like an awesome kind of buddy. It's like Raiders of the Lost Ark, Star Wars, and like a buddy cop flick all mixed into one.
That you could not do in modern time.
No.
Like a high schooler hanging out with an old dude. It's like, it's a little,
people will be like,
not to mention the, we'll probably talk about the mother-son
dynamic.
How weirdly like sexually deviant that movie is.
Yeah, strangely, yeah. But I remember, I think my experience is elevated, obviously, because I'm watching this movie that my dad was like, I love this movie. I want to share this with you. But we watched all three in one night.
Whoa.
Oh, wow.
And first time,
yeah.
Wow.
Like all day. Like it was an all day thing. Like it was the weekend. It was a Saturday.
They're like,
he went out and got
Corey,
donuts. Like it was a great experience. So I love the first one especially, but I have a great, nostalgia with all three.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go. Josh,
do it.
Look at him. Okay.
Do it.
For me, I remember so I'm a little younger than most of the people in this room, and even people out of the room. But I remember when McDonald's had when McDonald's had this thing where they were giving out VHSs with their Happy Meals, and
it sounds crazy to me.
It'd be like Field of Dreams, Land Before Time, Back to the Future, and I remember getting Back to the Future and watching it for the first time. And I don't know if my dad had already watched it or anything like that, but my ever since I was young, my parents loved movies. We just had VHSs on VHSs on VHSs. VHSs for all the kids at home with these things with the little films, and you have to put them in the little VCR rewinder thingies.
It's crazy talk.
You actually had to wait to watch your movie. But I remember watching it one weekend, and then every weekend we'd go to the mall just to walk around because we were poor. We couldn't afford to buy anything. But my dad was like, "Yo, let's buy the second one." So we bought the second one and we watched it. And then the next weekend we watched the third one. So it was like this kind of cool, like it felt like I was watching it in series where I was like going on. I was like, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? And then there's no more next. It was just done after the third one. But I was like, whoa, I want to watch them over and over again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember that. And this was the time when like for me, this is the time when Batman Forever was around. So I had like the Batman Forever Batmobile. And I would use that as like the little thing, as like RC car model thing. I would like race it around the house. I put a little stick to make sure it's like the lightning rod.
Wow.
Like, oh, I just absolutely love that movie.
That's awesome. For me, it was, I'm the older brother,
Mhm.
you know, it was definitely with my brother at some point. We probably rented it from Blockbuster or something like that. And I just fell in love with it. Like it might have even been on TV. I really can't remember, but it was, you know, Michael J. Fox is just such an incredible like character in that. And then Doc Brown is so incredible as well. But that just instantly fell in love with those movies. I love the first one the most, I think.
Yeah. I mean, we'll talk a little bit about like,
I don't think I saw even the third one for like much later.
Whoa.
Yeah. Like I saw like the first two, is all I remember. And the third one watched like a couple of years later or a few years after the fact.
I feel like the third one, in a weird way, was kind of in that time frame where movies were like everything goes west. Or everything goes Hawaiian. You know, like
goes west.
Yeah, like everything had to just go to another place other than what the normal we knew.
Yeah.
They just had to have some kind of cheeky genre.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, you know, Back to the Future, I mean, it's like Michael said, it's something that has been a part of my life for so long and such a big piece of, it's always been on my top movies. So it's very hard to remember the very first time that I saw it. I mean, I was like you, Ollie, I was a big Michael J. Fox fan as well. Like, I mean, Teen Wolf, Doc Hollywood, like he did a lot of really great movies in the late 80s, early 90s. And I just loved Michael J. Fox. And so I know that I used to just watch anything that he did.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Back to the Future, the whole series, really, I mean, yeah, you can go through any movie and pick things out of it like we've discussed on the show. But it's like, it is one of those things that I can watch back to front and be like, yeah, the third one's a little cheesy, but it's kind of
part of it.
Yeah, it's part of it.
I ended up owning the VHS box set, and then I ended up owning the DVD box set, you know, after that. And it's one of those movies that I could just watch. If it's on something, I'm watching it. Like it's going to happen.
Yep.
I'm not going to not watch Back to the Future.
You
know what I mean?
Oh, it's
Besides Star Wars, it's almost the only other movie I'll watch, just like, or like Raiders of the Lost Ark. There's like a handful of movies if I catch it at any point, I'll just finish it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like The Godfather. I can't not like just watch a scene of it. The Godfather's on and I watch a scene of it, I'm in for the long haul.
You're like, well, this is what I'm doing today now.
Yeah.
I think we'll save this question for later,
for sure.
but I think we'll move on to favorite moments. And this is kind of, we've lumped this into kind of a large thing, and we can put this across all three films if we'd like. But
I think so.
Do we have a favorite moment? And this can be
like specific, like one narrow. If I had to narrow it down to like one or two,
sure.
I mean, you could shoot,
just free ball it?
Shoot them three. Shoot them three of them. Three moments.
Well, I mean, my first one is obviously just the hoverboard in general.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, everyone wants that hoverboard.
Yeah.
I want it to this day, and I know we have quote unquote hoverboards that like roll
Not
around.
really.
They call them hoverboards, but every scene with that thing in the second one, I was sold. I instantly was like, I cannot. It's like lightsabers for me. Like the two things.
Guys, I have to get this out of the way before we continue. And I made a joke to you guys, or one of you, whichever one of you guys I was talking to. You know, we talked about Back to the Future being like a perfect movie.
Yeah.
Or like screenplay being a perfect screenplay. I have such issues with the other two movies.
Oh yeah.
And I know,
good.
And I know that like there are some people who are like, all the movies are amazing, and part two is. I never heard part two was better than part one. That's something I never heard before. But you know, I definitely know that people love part two and love part three, and part three is a little bit more, I think, divisive than part two
absolutely.
is. Because part two is essentially a retread of part one with some futuristic stuff in it.
Yeah. If we're being honest,
and no Kristen Glover, which is, you know, awful. But
I mean, that changed a lot of legality forever.
But I mean, yeah, it does.
Yeah.
I think we'll definitely jump on it once we get to Kwame Qualms. My favorite part is Kwame Qualms.
Yeah, we do.
When we talk about our qualms with the films.
Oh
and
yeah.
stuff like that.
But I just wanted to get it out of the way and say, for me, it's like, if we talk about these things and say like favorite moments, like to me, there's only Back to the Future.
Gotcha.
And then they made 2 other movies. And like, I'm being honest. And
I love that.
I like Back to the Future Part 2. I definitely like Back to the Future Part 2. There's way more in that movie than there are in most movies, and like it's great on a lot of levels. But as compared to 1, to me, it was like
Night
it
and
was
day.
just such a come down. And then Part 3 is like a totally different series. Like I'm like, what just
I could
happened?
vibe on that. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I mean, part 2 is absolutely just, hey, remember that thing in 1? Hey, do you remember that part in episode
Yeah,
1?
member berries. It's like member
Member berries. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
remember that thing that happened?
But I don't know. It's weird. As a kid, I remember I was like, I guess I was into like romance and the happy ending and shit. So like, I love, hearing Earth Angel.
Don't say and shit at the end of it to like make it sound cool.
You know what? What I mean? Like, I just loved it.
Romance and that and shit, whatever.
junk.
I had to keep the street cred, you know what I'm saying? But I just
First
love
step.
Earth Angel, and at the very end, like it all comes together, and like just you start hearing the theme too, and he's like chasing off back to the DeLorean. Like I don't know, just that part where it's like it's the very end, like hope is bleak, and then like his hands starting to fade away, and then all of a sudden George McFly gets the courage, and you hearing the song like swelling up. I love that part specifically in the first one. It was probably one of my favorite moments because it was a triumphant moment. Like the hero finally was able to find the courage to, get the woman that he is meant to be with, that he loves, and fight the bully or beat up the bad guy. So
Yeah. What
That was
about you,
great.
Michael?
Hey, you get your damn hands off her.
Yeah. I'd
For
say
sure.
Density is another one of my favorites.
Density.
Density. Sure, I
Everything's
use
so
that
heavy.
constantly. I'm
You're my
constantly
density.
It says it on your underwear, Calvin Klein.
Yeah.
In my hope chest. I mean that
Hope
scene
chest.
is so
Yeah.
twisted
Yeah.
and so fucked up in so many levels, and also so brilliant and also so fine for all ages. I don't know how they accomplished all of that. I really don't. Because if you really break down what's going on in that movie and how like disturbing it is, it's really weird.
Yeah, yeah.
Really cool. But like so amazing that they like were able to do that and pull it off and still be like a family adventure movie. Anyway,
Yeah.
it's like Sophocles, just shoved into the sci-fi adventure. I love when Marty sees Doc in 1955 and he goes to his house and he's like, and he's like, hey, come in. And he's trying to predict who he is. And then that whole thing, he's trying to convince him, and who's president? He's like, he tells him Ronald Reagan's president. Jack Benny's the Secretary of Treasury. Ha ha ha. And all these
The actor?
yeah, Ronald Reagan, the actor. And oh my God, it just goes on and on.
Yeah.
Huey Lewis telling them they're just too damn loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're literally, you could just like,
What
go
about that
on.
little moment when he talks to his uncle who's in prison and he's just like, get used to these bars.
Yeah,
bud."
he goes bars.
I think one of my favorite moments
Uncle
is
Joey, Uncle Joey's.
Yeah.
yeah. I think one of my favorite moments is like seeing him, like the money that he got to like spend money to blend in or whatever. He ends up buying like this weird like spy gear,
Yeah.
and he's like stalking Biff, like that.
Oh,
was
yeah,
that the
yeah.
second one?
That was the second one.
That was
Yeah.
the second one.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that was really
You're
fun.
a douche. Stop it.
I think I also
I'm just kidding. I no haters here. I love all opinions equally.
you'll have to be on at least 4 shows to earn the hatred.
But
Yeah. But I remember also in the little milkshake bar, whatever, it's like, like going to the bar and being a cool guy,
Oh,
getting
where
a
he
drink.
orders a chocolate
milk, chocolate.
Yeah.
And then he grabs it and slides to him, and he just downs the thing. I'm
I
like,
also
oh
say
my
that
God.
everything that Crispin Glover does in that movie is perfection.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's such
What
such
a character.
Yeah, such a funny juxtaposition to see that, and then his later works. Like, this guy is a creep.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
so funny.
You know that he showed up to that movie and just played that character however he wanted. He showed up and they were just like, what is he doing? And then they were like, it's kind of interesting. Let's just go with it.
It's working. Run with
yeah.
it.
No way he was directed to do that character that way. No way.
No, that's all Crispin. That's 100% Crispin.
I love Darth Laser.
Yeah.
Darth with the weird mask and thing. And
Oh
all
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Plays
from the
Zeppelin or
planet
whatever.
Vulcan. And I was like, oh my God. Just all the intertextuality you need in this film. It's like,
What was he playing? What was the music that he played from? Do you
It's
remember?
Van Halen.
Van Halen. That's what it was.
Well, someone saw it last night.
Yeah, exactly.
You cheater.
Yeah.
The person who didn't see it today.
What wasn't there a thing I think I read where like the tape they had to write Eddie Van Halen because there was some like rights or something
Oh, really?
with the band that he
Oh,
couldn't,
wow. I
they
believe
couldn't
that.
put Van Halen or something. I don't know what it
Wow.
was, but
My favorite part will always be heavy. You keep saying that.
Heavy.
Is there something wrong with the Earth's gravitational pull?
Yeah.
It's always my favorite.
Yeah.
And just the iconic status of the DeLorean and what it's become since then.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
is-
Every time you see one, you got like, oh my god, this is dope.
I
Yeah.
gotta take a picture. I gotta tell someone I saw a DeLorean today.
Did you guys see on my Instagram? I posted a thing. I was driving on the Long Island Expressway, and a DeLorean drove past me.
I
And it
did
looked
see
like,
that.
and it
Oh,
looked
wow.
like it was like lit up too.
Oh,
that's cool.
Oh, I mean, if you have a
It was
DeLorean,
insane.
you know the baggage that comes
Yeah.
along with it, right?
Literally, like it was like Back to the Future was driving it. It was like the weirdest thing ever.
It's
It was
getting
in the
ready
middle
for
of the
Ready
day.
Player One.
What the hell?
To restore my cred from quoting Back to the Future 2.
Come on.
Number one, I think one of my one of my
Careful.
favorite quotes is or something along the lines of like, check out his life preserver. Dork thinks he's gonna drown.
Yeah.
He's wearing like a vest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find myself quoting that all the time.
But I mean, wasn't it always
It's a
super
bit
cool?
much for you, but your kids are gonna love it.
Yeah.
I just love seeing Marty McFly like just always hanging on like the tailgate of any truck when he's like
Yeah.
skateboarding. Like
Yeah.
that to me like defined cool kid.
Mm-hmm.
Like this guy was a cool kid. And then when he did that later on with like the little box scooter that the other kid like he
Yep.
stole from the kid, and I was like, this guy's shredding up in the 50s, bro. It's like this is dope.
Oh, when
Yeah.
he turns the box scooter into a skateboard.
Yeah.
Man,
Favorite character and side characters, or we want to dive into anything else?
I say favorite character. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes I think it's like asking a favorite character of like a Star Wars film or something.
Favorite character of a
like
James Bond movie?
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
like I wonder.
that. I'll start. Let's have Michael start this one off. Do
Yeah.
you have a favorite character?
You know, I think my favorite performance is Crispin Glover in the
Mhm.
first one
yeah.
because it's just like so. It's very like raw and kind of edgy and anachronistic in terms of like the rest of the tone of the film and kind of this sort of adventure story that everyone's okay, and he's meeting his parents but like it's just such a quirky, interesting take on that character that was so unexpected, and I just love how he played it. I mean, but yeah, I mean, I love Marty and Doc. I mean, you can't it's a hard thing to say. I mean, I'm definitely, if you ask me what my favorite Star Wars character was,
There's only one right answer.
is there really?
This is the resident grump saying that.
No.
I'm
Yeah,
kidding.
it's Finn from the new movies, right?
Okay, good, good,
yeah.
good. I'm
Yep,
so glad we're on the same
that's
page.
That's the right one.
You pass.
Jesus. So no, I mean, like for me, it's like saying like Luke and Han Solo I love them both equally for very different reasons, and like they both mean like everything to me in my childhood, and everything that makes me like a geek, is embedded in those two characters. So for me, it's kind of similar to in Back to the Future, where I'm like, well, just you can't have Marty without Doc, Doc without Marty, and there
Right.
is no Back to the Future without Marty and Doc. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like saying,
They're back and
yeah,
forth.
oh yeah, who's your favorite character in Raiders of the Lost Ark? Oh well, the Nazi number 8. I mean, it's fucking Indiana Jones. Obviously, he's that whole movie, and so yeah, as cool as Crispin Glover's great and quirky and awesome. So like I would say from an actor standpoint, I really admire like what he did. Like it's just sort of such an interesting thing because I'm more of the character actor type, but yeah, I mean like Marty and Doc are like two of my like childhood heroes. So.
Yeah.
Okay, then how about we go off that then? Without Doc and Marty, who is your favorite character?
So for
What?
him, it'd be Crispin.
So for him, I mean, we can all be like Doc or Marty.
Yeah.
But then this
Yeah.
is kind of like an extension of like previous episodes when I do. What's your favorite side character? What's your favorite non-main
Side character.
Oh God.
Mine would have to be Biff. Yeah, I mean yours can be Biff too. It's fine.
No.
I mean, and honestly, in all three movies, like he's fantastic.
He's just the same bully over and
He's
over.
the
again.
yeah.
Even when he's like old man Biff, and he's kind
Yeah.
of. But then I love how like he just sees how dumb he was.
Yeah.
As, like, make like a leaf and get the hell out of here.
Make like a tree and get out of here.
Okay. Oh,
You sound like
my-
an idiot when he said it wrong.
Hold on. In number 2, though, when he's the old Biff going back to see the young Biff, doesn't he seem more lucid and smarter than he ever did somehow?
Yeah, it's like
yeah.
he's learned his lesson.
Well, it's like everyone lost their minds and he didn't. Like
Yeah.
he gained a mind and everyone else lost theirs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's weird.
Yeah,
He
'cause
just
he's
seems way more
correcting.
lucid.
Yeah, he corrects young Biff, and he's like, "You sound like an idiot when you say it wrong." And so it's like he's learned the error of his ways.
He's like, you don't have a safe, get a safe.
Yeah, I would have to say Marty's mom.
I was gonna say Lorraine.
Lorraine is. I mean,
Mm.
I loved her. It was really
Isn't he
funny to watch
dreamy?
that. Yeah, I mean, it was really cool to see that story unfold and how quickly the tides change when she's protected.
Young hearts.
I'm
Yeah.
going with Calvin Klein.
Yeah. I don't know, but I'm going to find out.
Yeah, and I don't know. There's I think to Michael's point, there's a weird, provocative, but strangely like I can't look away kind of feeling. And I got this PacSun shirt of her on it, and I'm kind of like, I get this. I
From
don't
Back
know-
to the Future?
From Back to the Future.
Oh,
It's
nice.
like a still. It's not like from the actual film, but it's like a production still. Where like they're
It
like,
almost
okay,
looks like a yearbook
Of Lorraine.
photo.
yeah, and I'm like, I think next to like Pink Ranger, Amy Jo Johnson, I was like, man feelings.
Man feelings.
feelings.
There's
This
so
is-
many things happening.
This is weird. I don't know why I feel like this. I don't know.
Yeah, well, remember Marty's like, but you're so hot.
I know.
You're so hot. You're so hot. You know? I
No,
was-
he says say hot. He says thin.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you.
Because that would be even creepier. Thank you.
Well, that's the
using-
second one.
Pretty sure he didn't say you're so hot, mom.
The second one, he's like, "You're so big."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm with Michael on this one. George McFly would
Yeah.
have to
George
be.
McFly?
He's just interesting. Every time he's on screen, you cannot take your eyes off him.
Yeah.
He's fascinating to watch, and his speech pattern is interesting to listen to as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just how much he struggles just to communicate with people,
Yeah.
and you wonder. It makes you
Golden.
wonder, and it makes you understand why they kind of hate each other in the beginning of the movie. And you're like, oh, because she never really 100% loved him.
Yeah.
How could you? He's a creep.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm with you on that one. I think that would have to be besides, I think Doc was also one of my favorites growing up. Like I thought Doc, Christopher Lloyd, is fascinating to watch as well. The amount of energy that man has in that performance is astounding.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Do we want to talk a little bit about like the technology that it
Did you have
introduced? Oh, no, I said Lorraine's.
Oh, Lorraine.
Yeah, technology.
Might be.
I don't know about this. What's going on?
Well, I was going to say, kind of some of the things that I think what's so interesting about Back to the Future is it introduced things at the time that everybody was like, no way. That's what? FaceTime calls?
Oh, and two.
you
a
know,
lot of the
like-
stuff that
Oh,
came
like
true,
the-
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
it's
true.
It's interesting, and how the Cubs actually almost won the
On the
World
year.
Series on the year that they predicted.
Well, also
That would have been so good.
I was hoping for it, man. I don't even watch baseball. And I was
the
like, come on.
the automatic shoes
Yeah.
and like
auto lacing.
and they like maybe like 2-3 years ago, some of that actually made them develop them for Marty McFly now, like for Michael J. Fox now, and super dope since he has Parkinson's and everything. Like he was putting him on. It was like super dope.
Yeah.
Holograms. which we have,
Holograms,
The
yeah.
Jaws hologram, Jaws 24,
Yeah.
whatever.
Here's $100. Go buy yourself a Coke.
Yeah. Yeah. Prices,
Yeah.
are you saying?
Hands-free video games.
Yeah. Wireless video games, waste-fueled cars. That is a thing.
Hoverboards.
Hoverboards.
Sort of. I don't count that.
Do you guys think that they consulted a bunch of futurists
They
making that movie?
I feel like they had to. Like,
Yeah.
they have like the video glasses came true to, like Google Glass and stuff like that.
Yep.
It's all too much of it was too accurate for
Like the
me.
ordering kiosks, kind of like ordering the Pepsi
Yeah.
from Michael
Yeah.
Jackson. Or whatever. That didn't specifically come true, but
Oh wait, what? I just remembered one other favorite moment of mine. It's the part where he's like, "Yeah, he's gonna be mayor," and he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be mayor."
Yeah.
Really cool. I like the sound of that. That
it's like,
just
all right,
came to
Mr.
me.
Mayor, or something like the
Yeah.
shopkeep tells him something.
I'm still waiting for Jaws 19.
Yep.
Yeah, or Jaws 19, yeah.
That
Stop.
was
Goldie
the thing
Wilson.
I got wrong that anyone would care about Jaws.
Yeah.
Like Spielberg was like, I have so much invested in Jaws. I need more sequels.
He's like,
God.
and this time the shark is
I've
going to be
seen
bigger.
too many of those to be proud of.
Yeah.
Speaking of sequels to a movie that are terrible, like there is no good Jaws sequel. Like why would he even
No.
make that joke?
No, you can't.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Maybe that's
Draw attention
why.
to all the terrible Jaws movies. Maybe that's what it was. He was like, I wasn't involved in those other ones.
Yeah, that's got to be.
It's an
it.
internal joke, really.
But I mean,
It's a joke, like, yeah.
if Back to the Future were to be remade nowadays, we could just replace that Jaws with Fast and Furious, right? It'd be
Yeah.
Fast and Furious like 40.
40, yeah.
How many of those movies are coming out?
I love the little pizza that hydrates.
Oh,
Yeah. Nobody hydrates a pizza like you, Mom.
Do we want to slip into some Kwame Qualms? Tom's favorite
I think
segment.
so.
I think
I
it's
think
time.
so.
I really wanted to hear more like from Michael about
Yeah.
2 and 3 because
Yeah, I'm fascinated.
I always love to hear when somebody has different opinions. Like I really want to like understand. So he
I'm
has
not a
kind of an
hater.
evil
I'm not a
laugh.
hater. I'm not the guy who like goes to see The Last Jedi hoping it's going to be bad. I'm not
Yeah.
that person. like what I find very odd about number 2 is that like, it's like they felt like they needed to go back into the nostalgia of a movie that was made like 5 years before it or 4 years before it or something.
Yeah.
It's like, do we need the nostalgia for it already? Like, remember how perfect that movie was? Well, we're going to up the ante somehow, but like not really, and just remind you how good that movie was. But also like, I'm trying, in my mind, it's similar to, I mean, look, I've had this debate with a lot of people about Indiana Jones Temple of Doom.
Oh,
I love that movie.
Yeah,
me too.
Okay, I think Temple of Doom is like a masterpiece, and I think there are things about it that suck. Like Kate Capshaw is not very good in it, and she's super annoying. But
I second that.
She serves a purpose.
Yeah.
There are things about it that aren't like good or like enjoyable necessarily, but they like fit in somehow. But to me, and what I realized like years later was that movie actually takes place before Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah, that's the one thing I was going to mention is that if you with that piece of information, in your mind, Temple of Doom, it's kind of almost poetic because that's sort of like he learns how to care about other people other than himself, and then that kind of leads into Raiders.
Yeah. Well, it does in the same way, but except for like in the beginning when he's like going for the idol in the beginning, you're like, he's got kind of that. But then he ends up what he's trying to do is bring it to a museum.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So he's not like a raper and a pillager like Belloc. We're going off on a really
No, it's okay.
Tangents are welcome here,
It's
man.
really good.
I think it's an important thing to talk about in terms of like, why sequels get made and like what, and when they veer off into another direction. Like, so to me, the reason for me, the Temple of Doom work as compared to Raiders is that, and don't get me wrong, I'm staring up at an original from the movie theater framed Raiders of the Lost Ark poster above my desk right now.
Okay.
Nice. I am a hardcore Raiders fan. Like, I think that is, as much as Back to the Future is a perfect screenplay, Raiders is a perfect movie. And all you have to do is go online to my dear collaborator and friend, Steven Soderbergh, and watch his like black and white, shot for shot. Like, you got to see what he did with Raiders of the Lost Ark. I don't know if you guys know about this.
No,
I don't.
I'm going to check it out now, though.
Yeah.
You guys go check it out and then bring it back to me and we'll talk about it.
Sounds good to me.
Absolutely.
I don't want to
Everyone at home, pause it and then go watch it and then come back. Listen.
Someone Googles Soderbergh's Raiders of the Lost Ark and you'll see what I'm talking about. That's a perfect movie. Temple of Doom veers off and becomes this whole other adventure. It's different comedy. It's different tonally. Steven Spielberg was going through a divorce, so was George Lucas. They were both really depressed and messed up at the time. Like, it's a totally different experience watching that. Like, everything about it, visually, whatever. So to me, it's like, it's not as good as the first. So like, why try to make? They didn't try to make a better movie. They just made a different movie.
Mm-hmm.
It almost felt like Back to the Future 2 was like trying to be better. It was like, we can take everything that was good in the first one, and then we can layer on this whole other thing and make it even better. Like, we could take all of that and then also go into the future. Whoa. And then that's one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it is they were trying to be like meta and really clever and say how, is number 2 actually sort of a commentary on time travel movies and a commentary on the first one? And is it actually like more subversive than we think it is and not just a straight up adventure film?
Mm-hmm.
And is it like, are they trying to be? And then to me, the answer to that is, well, if it is, they're just too clever for their own good. And it just kind of falls flat on that level for me.
Gotcha.
But I like it. There are moments in it that are great. It was on the other day and I totally left it on and watched a bunch of it because I was like, it's funny and I like the Biff stuff in the future. And it's way darker in a lot of ways. Like, even though there's a lot of dark shit about the first one, they handle it in a lighter way. Number 2, they handle the dark shit in a fairly dark way.
Uh-huh.
But then you get to number 3, and I never forget that, right? When you watch number 2, and at the end, all this it ends, and you're like, oh my God, what's gonna happen? And then all of a sudden they show scenes from number 3, and you're like,
yeah, that was
God, I forgot about that.
Very jarring.
Because they filmed both of them at the same time.
Same time. And so that was like, I remember seeing that and just being like, what the fuck? They go to the Old West. And if you remember, they show like a lot of the plot of the movie in those scenes at the end of
Yeah.
Back to the Future 2.
Mm-hmm.
They like go through like,
I
and you're
totally
like,
forgot about that.
Yeah.
and it says to be. Remember, it says to be concluded.
Yeah.
To be concluded. Yeah, I remember that.
Yep, I remember that. Yeah,
Holy shit, I totally forgot they attach a trailer on the end of that movie.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's almost as if,
Strange.
like you were saying, I think they just wanted to kind of, go to the future and then also like, I guess, go to the far past. Cause I'm trying to like imagine the
Thought process.
or like the meetings that they had of like, okay, what do we do with the next two movies? Like, it's like, okay, you're going to go back, reuse some of the plot points from number one, like all of the plot points from number one and just kind of go deeper with them, and explore them in a different way. And then almost like trying to solve the same like conflict or almost like it has the same stakes again.
Yeah.
And you're trying to go back, but
I feel like the third one to me was a better sequel than the second one, because the second one, I feel like the first part where they're in the future is the only bit of originality in it, where it was like, hey, these are the same characters, they're on a new adventure. And at the later half, when they're back in 1955, it's kind of like, hey, remember that tensive like time ticking bomb that we had? Like, we're going to amp that up and give you more stuff to laugh about. Where the third one was like completely new adventure. These are the same tropes that you loved, and we're going to bring it back in this time frame. And so in that sense, it makes more of a homage comparatively than the second one. The second one was almost just like carbon copy.
Yeah.
Where but I mean, there's some things where they kind of just ramped up completely, where like Biff in the future is a complete idiot.
yeah.
And then Biff in the past of the Mad Dog, whatever his name is, wherever.
Yeah.
He's just more of like actually an evil dude.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But he's also
I like that you put it that way, because the third one it is almost a better sequel because it is at least a little more original.
Mhm.
You do have a few callbacks here and there, but it's not like Michael said, it's not member berries for 90% of the film.
I mean, Doc actually gets to develop.
Well, that was I was gonna say it's Doc's movie.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Doc gets to
It's like
develop.
they
It's
wanted,
not. Yeah.
You know that Zemeckis just wanted to make a Western.
Oh,
yeah,
100%.
absolutely.
Yeah.
There's no other reason that they made that movie that way as a Western. Like, there's no reason for, like, they literally could have gone anywhere back in time. I mean, just think about that for a second. Like, you've got this franchise where you literally have the power. You have the power to literally go anywhere and do anything. And you're like, I'm going to make a Western. And you're like, okay.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
You could have done anything with that, but okay.
And to me, it's probably like that was the adventure stories of their youth. Like for Spielberg, for Zemeckis, for all those guys, like that's what they watched on television was,
The Westerns.
the
The Western
they were
boom.
raised on that.
Mm-hmm.
Because they did the sci-fi. So like, what's the other thing that like sort of inspires all those guys to make those adventure movies? And I know they always say like, oh, it's old Flash Gordon and it's all that kind of stuff. But then it's also, I've heard them say it's also Westerns. And like, I actually love a good Western. Like I love revisionist Westerns too, like dark ones, like Unforgiven is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
To me, like whimsical Westerns, like the only whimsical Western that works for me, and because it mixes great drama, great action, and like fucking awesome, edgy humor is Silverado. Silverado to me is like the best Western ever made.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's just like, what are you talking about? Silverado, written by Lawrence Kasdan, who wrote, Empire Strikes Back.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, it is, if you guys haven't seen that movie or haven't seen it in a while, go back and see it. It's got Scott Glenn, it's got Kevin Kline, it's got Jeff Goldblum, it's got the most amazing cast.
Oh.
Wow.
It's super good.
Is it?
It's really good.
It's so good. It's so good. And to me, it was like I had seen great Westerns before, and it just fell flat for me. Like the jokes fell flat. The romance between Doc and Mary Steenburgen's character I have no idea who that was. Claire or Mary or something.
Claire with the lavender.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think
It just was
in a
like-
weird meta way, I think that was kind of like Doc's reasoning for going back to the Old West. he wanted to go back to the Old West for the adventure, and that's kind of like
But
where
he
the
didn't
plot's
have
going.
a choice at that
Right.
time because the
Struck
stakes
by
were going.
lightning.
Yeah, he was struck by lightning, and that's where he was sent.
Well,
That's right.
That's why he stayed though.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think there's one thing nice in terms of like just kind of original writing in the third one is the fact that Doc finds love in a time that he wasn't from, but in
Yeah.
a time frame that he highly admires. Because some people kind of revere the Western as a time of like slight innovation, but also there's like no rules, there's no laws, yada yada. Like there's that aspect of it, but also like huge things were happening. Like this is when like railroads were being built and things like that, and it kind of leads into like I think one thing I felt like this is the biggest toy they're going to sell is the time machine train.
The train,
yeah. And I was like, I wonder how that's going.
Yeah.
But, I mean, having kids named after Jules Verne and stuff like that, and talking about those books. And I don't know. I thought those were kind of cool aspects.
Yeah,
of it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm of the mind myself. Number one will always be number one.
Yeah.
And number two and number three, like I've said on the show before, like with any movie, I want to go in and I want to be entertained. Can I analyze any movie? Definitely. Any movie we can watch and we can go, okay, that was a pile of shit and this is why. But there are some movies we can go, it was fun. It was.
I mean, there is something to say that Member Berries work. They're there for a reason. I mean, nostalgia is a big part of.
In some ways, I think the Back to the Future 2 is kind of like how most sequels are now.
Yeah.
Most sequels now are just like, do the same thing as the first one, but just a little bit bigger. And that's what kind of happens instead of like sometimes they don't do a complete different story.
Oh, how we've come full circle.
Boom. Back to the present.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
Do we want to go in order? Like which ones are our top?
I think we've already pretty much established.
where
Okay, I'm going to say it for the record.
3 for me.
Okay, good.
I'm going to say it for the record. When I was a kid, 3 was my favorite.
Oh, really? When you were
3
a
was my
kid?
favorite. As an adult going through film course and stuff like that, I'd say the best ones are probably, to me, 1, 3, and 2. But then in terms of my favorites are going to be 3, 1, and 2.
Wow.
And I'll be honest with that. I'm just like,
Yeah.
I watched the third one way more than I've watched any of the first 2.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, when you're a kid, it's kind
That's
of
true.
If you look at it, I can see why.
Well, also in a funny way, like what Michael was saying, like how these filmmakers had their childhood was filled with westerns. Mine wasn't. Mine was not filled with westerns. So in a funny way,
That's the western of your
kind
childhood.
filled my western.
Jesus Christ.
Because I didn't start watching westerns until actually later on in my adult life. Like
Wow.
I know.
Oh,
How
he's
uncultured
turning
I
very
became.
red. When I say that I haven't read a lot of comic books, that's how I feel.
Or like when I say I'm not wearing hockey pants. That's how I
Oh
feel.
my God. He made it in there.
Last minute, but I did it.
You somehow find a way.
He found it.
I'll
For
eat
me,
them.
I think it's the same kind of idea where there's a like what's the best movies and then like which ones do I like the enjoyment from, because for me like it's fascinating to see like the alternate 80s, or like going back in time, like the Western, but it's not just the Old West, but it's the Old West for this world, which is fascinating. After you've seen like 2 movies and you've seen the future and you've seen the past, what stays with me the most is the beginning of 2, which is all the future stuff.
Yeah.
And kind of seeing like the Nikes and the my favorite is the auto drying jacket.
Oh,
like
we need that now, everyone.
Yeah.
If someone at home is like an engineer or something like that, can you please?
That's
Make
what
that
you need.
auto
Can you
dry
get on that?
jacket.
Can you get on that, please? I mean,
How often do
You
you
are
get your
now
jacket
dry.
soaked?
yeah. Like I love that stuff.
I sweat a lot.
Just as a kid, that stuff like captured my imagination, But I think order wise, it would have to go 1, 2, and 3.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
okay.
I'm the same.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Chronologically.
I watched 1 the most though.
I was gonna
For
say
sure.
3,
Yeah.
but then I just finished talking about how the second one was very
Yeah.
influential. So
What do you think, Michael? Probably the same.
Sorry, what are we talking about?
If we were going to
Raise the
rankings.
Lost Ark? No.
Favorite ordering of them from
Yeah, of course.
best to worst?
1, 2, 3.
1, 2,
yeah, 1, 2, 3.
Damn
Cool.
close.
I feel complete.
I just want to add one other thing, by the way.
Do
Please.
it, please.
The thing that feels off to me about 3
Yeah.
is that it's not Marty's movie.
Oh, yeah.
See,
We're
Marty's
talking
a
about, like,
supporting
it's-
character kind of in that movie.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's about Stock's movie.
But I mean, in a similar sense, he still has like this worrying feeling throughout the film because, like, in the first one, he's worried that his family's going to disappear. Second one, that his entire timeline's messed up. Third one, that Doc is going to die and he hasn't told him yet, or he's told him, but he's trying to prevent his death the entire time. So I mean, there is still
Yeah.
that.
But
that
he's
suspense that
in
going
that
And
He
that
doesn't
really
really-
he is the
plot-wise,
Doc to his Marty. Like they switch roles.
but like
yeah.
character development and transformation of character.
And
I
it
would-
doesn't work quite as well.
Yeah.
He tries to ignore.
Yeah, that's a
Chicken,
good point.
but
He sort of
ignore-
grows up, becomes the sage,
Yeah.
the sage person, and
Because I mean, that part with the second movie where like he loses his guitar hand, it doesn't come to fruition until the third film,
Mhm.
where he finally has to like not like race against whatever douchebags and then doesn't get hit in a car accident.
Yeah.
So I mean, like there's some development.
Oh my God.
Squeeze that in.
You are really just trying to protect number 3.
My baby.
My baby.
Nah.
Grumpy
Well,
Tom. Wow.
I feel complete.
Yeah.
Feel good about
Feel
that.
good.
Michael, is there anywhere that you'd like to send our listeners, like any projects that are coming up or movies
Social
or any
medias.
social media?
Yeah, I mean, you guys, everyone can follow me on Michael_Nathanson on Instagram, and my Twitter is M_Nathanson1. Sorry for all the underscores, everybody.
It's all
No
good.
choice. A lot of Michael Nathans apparently had to have their accounts before me.
But you have the check mark, so that's what counts.
Yeah.
I do have the check marks. Hey, yeah. So if you search, literally, if you just go search for my name on social media, you'll find me. Yeah, I post a lot of fun stuff. So and I try to talk to most of the folks who message me or comment on, at least who comment on stuff. I try to be pretty good about that.
I love
Upcoming
looking at your Instagram. You are a total you are a total nerd. I'm just like, oh, that is so much. That looks like so much fun. Like some of the pictures that he posts, I'm just like, oh yeah.
Sounds like
This
just
is- we're
open
in
the
good company.
floodgates of like for all of the Indiana Jones conversations
Oh,
that
no.
come to you.
Oh,
No, I have a lot of fun with Instagram. To me, Instagram is like my it's like my clubhouse where people can come and hang out with me. That's literally what it is for me. It's like I've talked about this before. It's just like being close to the fans because I am a nerd and like I've been a fan for so long of all this stuff that like having the sort of, I don't know, and it's not power, but just having the like
Platform.
platform, yeah, to like be able to talk about the things I like and geek out with about the things I like, and that's why I love using social media for. And you know, I also post things about my kids, but I'm I'm grooming them to be future
We got
geeks.
it.
So
Good
you
man.
can watch their transformation as they get to know about all these things. And yeah,
Awesome.
so anyway, so
Definition of
that's
good
my
father.
ongoing project is my social media for sure. But I got a lot of other stuff. I got a project going with Marvel I can't talk about right now, but when
Wow.
I can, I'm going to come back and maybe chat with you guys a little bit about
Oh,
it.
we'd love that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be awesome.
You have
Kind of-
you have a feature coming up, right? Can't have you?
Yeah, it's a little bit in limbo at the moment. We're
Okay.
not sure what's happening with it, but I'm hoping it's going to come out this year at some point.
Keep
The
an eye
wonderful
out
world,
for it.
yeah, the wonderful world of filmmaking. It's like you never know what's going to come out when and how it's going to come out and all that. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
But everyone
it's
can
been
find
taking
out
longer.
on your
Distribution's a
Instagram
beast.
and on your Twitter. So I mean,
Yeah, I'll post something about. I try not to post too much about like myself in terms of like my own. Not that you shouldn't, and I definitely talk about stuff I do. I'm not as good as like promoting my projects as I probably should be. I'm much more like I just enjoy having fun with all this stuff, and so that's
Yeah.
what I post.
That's what's
As you should.
Yeah, I'm having the time of my life, guys. This is awesome.
Oh,
That's great.
Other projects. I got a feature film that I co-wrote that I'm producing and I'm going to be in that we're trying to get off the ground and raise some money for, and we're talking to different producers and such. And I have a TV pilot I wrote with a friend that we're taking meetings for that right now. We've got a really, really good meeting coming up, which is very exciting. So there's some cool potential in that.
nice.
It's a TV pilot about dads in Brooklyn, sort of a catastrophe meets girls kind of a thing.
Nice.
If anyone watches either of those shows.
definitely.
And just auditioning. Right now I'm in pilot season. I was just I was in Pensacon this weekend in Pensacola, Florida. It's a really great Comic-Con. If anyone gets a chance to go down there for it next year, it's awesome. Just like the coolest, one of the best Comic-Cons I've ever been to. And it was really fun. And people were asking me what I was doing. And like, of course, as soon as I left town to go to Florida, my agents were like, oh, you have to put this audition on tape for another pilot. And I was like, oh, what is this? And it was the Magnum PI reboot.
Oh, man.
Yeah. To play Rick. Remember Rick? He was like the club owner, the guy.
Yeah.
And it's so
Absolutely.
funny. I was doing a live podcast at Pensacon with Danny and Mike Morona and Danny Tamborelli. The guys were
Oh,
from the
yeah.
convention.
Yeah.
Pete and Pete.
Pete. Yeah,
Oh,
so
yeah.
those guys these guys are friends of mine, and we were doing this live podcast, and it's funny. I said to the audience, I was like, "Yeah, I'm auditioning for this Magnum PI," and they all started shouting, "You're Rick! You could be Rick!"
Whoa.
Oh, that's awesome.
Whoa! Did you guys just karmically make that happen for me?
Great.
I don't know how good my audition tape was. It was fine, but that's where I am right now, man. I'm just like
Well, we're rooting for you. I'd like to see that.
audition. Yeah, I'm just auditioning for lots of stuff, and trying to figure out what the next sort of acting gig is going to be. But in the meantime, like I told you guys earlier, just, working on a lot of other projects and kind of just enjoying the ride of all of it. It's pretty,
Being a dad.
keeping busy.
Being a dad at the same time.
being a dad. Yeah, not being a deadbeat dad.
There you go.
Super busy. Everybody at home, thank you for listening. Thank you, Michael, for being on the show.
It's a pleasure, you guys. Thanks. It was fun to talk about this.
You can find out everything about the show on nerdonthepodcast.com, all of our different social media following stuff. We will link all of Michael's social media on the
Absolutely.
show notes, the website, and all that jazz.
Join our Patreon.
Yeah, our
Tons of
Patreon
crap.
allows us to keep doing this and to keep making the show, making all of our bonus content, just keep going. It's awesome. All of our patrons have been pretty amazing, as always.
Nerd on.
Ending broadcast.